Joining me now, First Class Father Sean Duffy. Welcome back to First Class Fatherhood.
It's great to be back with you. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, last time I had you here along with your wife Rachel. It's an honor to have you back. Let's start here with a little update on the kids. 9 kids. How's everybody doing? How's the family?
9 kids are doing great. I have one who just got married. She's 23. She got married last summer, so which is kind of crazy. I didn't think that would happen that early as a dad. I've got another one who just went off to college. One who's out making movies in LA. And then the rest are at home, so I have 6 at home. My little Valentina, who has Down syndrome, she's 3. She's going to preschool. None of mine went to preschool. We kept them at home as long as possible. But for services, she goes. So she gets on a little bus every day and goes into school and gets services, which has actually been pretty great. So for a while, for the first time in my marriage, I have part of the day that is free without kids. It's never happened that way. So it's new.
Wow. Yeah, well, props to you for that. I know I seen your daughter Avita run with Tucker talking about I believe it was the tamale guys getting hit, abused, the whole bit. But I saw her piece on Tucker. I thought she did a phenomenal job. What was that like for you as a dad, seeing her take on that role and do so well as she's been doing?
Done a few hits with Fox, but so I was less nervous on that one that she did. I was more nervous the first time she did it. It was during the pandemic, and we have a studio in our basement. And so she did it out of the basement. I was upstairs watching, and I was pacing back and forth, and I think I was sweating and really nervous for her. But listen, I'm proud of her. She's a good little conservative, a good little Catholic, and she's telling stories that she cares about. And she went to school in Chicago, at the University of Chicago, and it's an area that she's like, it's just the dumbest policy is to say we're going to go cashless for, which is the most part, a poor community, and many of them are illegal. They don't have bank accounts. They can't go cashless. Lori Lightfoot was saying, hey, listen, we want this because there's so many robberies and whatnot in this area that a lot of the small businesses had to shut down. And Lori Lightfoot, instead of addressing crime, was like, well, why don't we just have you go cashless so they can't steal it? It's like, hello, they can't go cashless. Everyone uses cash. So she did a great little package on that.
Yeah, great reporting. Seeing her, on the scene there rather than have to be, like you said, in the basement where everyone was doing that during the COVID time. But you and Rachel have been really just crushing it on Fox. I know now you have the new show, Fox Business, The Bottom Line. You already started the show here. What is it all about, and where are you guys going with it?
We're on Fox Business, 6 p.m. Every night, Monday through Friday. Dagen McDowell and I host the show together. And we're talking about the kitchen table issues that I think matter to people. And there's a cross section between politics, culture, and business. They all come together because so much of what's happening in Washington, D.C. is affecting our everyday lives. And we take that to life and have a lot of fun at 6 o'clock every night on Fox Business on The Bottom Line. So we've been having a ball. We're 1 week, 1 day into it. This will be 1 week, 2 days today into it. We're having a blast.
Well, there's no doubt that right now, Sean, the bottom line is affecting families all across the country here. Obviously, whether you have 9 kids or you got 4 like myself, we're all feeling this, and it's been happening for quite a while here. And especially with the inflation. I know you guys had your first guest on the show, Senator Ted Cruz. I had him on the podcast here not that long ago. You guys talking about the gas prices, the gas lighting that's coming from the media telling you, oh, look, the gas prices are coming down. Yet it's a play on words here. It's been they're still higher than they were. And that has been one of the number one drivers that's been crippling families, not to mention the price that we're paying now for food at the grocery store. But all that's been affected by these gas prices here right now. And it's a tough time on so many families. So what kind of advice do you have right now out there for the families? What kind of tips you have for them that are trying to keep their budget that's already been tight with all this inflation, the gas prices, the whole bit?
First off, I believe that gas prices have gone up for the last 5 weeks. So when the Biden administration is touting the fact that gas prices are going down, that's actually not true. They're going up. And to your point, they're much higher than they were when Joe Biden took office on January 20th of 2020. So it is complete gaslighting. And because I shop for so many people, when I go to the grocery store, I've seen, I mean, I feel the impact of prices because I'm buying so much food. And when I'm hearing that the prices at the grocery store have gone up, 10% in the last year, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, there's no way that my prices have only gone up by 10%. My bills seem to be 30, 40% more than what they used to be. And so I don't know how they're calculating. The government calculates these numbers, but you go spend $60 at the store and all, you walk out with a little bag of groceries. So, I don't know that data is actually accurate because the pain feels much more stringent, it is much deeper. I don't know what advice. Every family has to make their own decision, right? So I have a lot of kids who have to have a Suburban, and I'm yelling about kids driving because gas is so expensive, and I can't put them. I mean, I get a big Catholic van, but I drive in a Suburban, and if we all go together, I don't have another choice. But you do have to have, if you have an option to get a used car, which I'm looking for right now, that gets way better gas mileage. I'm not going to buy a new car, but a used car that gets me from point A to point B and gets better mileage. I'm looking at that myself. And frankly, we eat less meat. Meat's expensive, really expensive. So we make different choices that try to help bring that bill down, which I think everyone is doing in their own homes, in their own lives, trying to manage budgets. And if you're buying a house or you had a mortgage that you have to refinance, mortgage rates have gone through the roof for people. So that's hitting their budgets. If you're a renter, you've seen the cost of rent go up. So we're getting pinched at every turn. And, what frustrates me is when people tell us they're trying to help us out, they're trying to make our lives better, and they have the answers for us. So often they're just messing stuff up. I was changing a light bulb last night. Rachel's like, that light bulb has been out for 2 months. Change it. But I went and got a light bulb, and they have all these LED lights now. Remember, and they're like $8, $10 a piece. They're expensive. I remember when I used to go to Walmart and I got the 4-pack of 100-watt bulbs for $1.50. Now I get one for $8. Everything's getting ruined because of some of these policies that are coming out of Democrat administration. So I just think the American people, when they have enough, they'll change course. As the last election, they haven't had enough quite yet. They gave the Senate back to Democrats. So you have more abuse on the horizon unless Republicans in the House can stop it.
And to your point, too, we just made the switch about 6 months ago. We went from the minivan that we had to a hybrid minivan where we went from like 19 miles to the gallon to like 38, 39 miles to the gallon. A big difference for us to do that. But I think a lot of families have been forced to kind of make and look for those options now. And with the grocery store, I do the food shopping for the 6 of us in our family, and it is absolutely incredible the way the prices have gone up. And you hear it at the grocery store from everybody when they're doing their shopping. Just the ridiculousness of how much these basic needs, and basic things that you shop for, how they have all skyrocketed. Yet we all see these here in Jersey, where I am. We can't even use a shopping bag anymore. So everyone's got to come in with the duffel bags, and everyone forgets their bags. And it's like it makes zero sense. Yet, this is the logic of of what is going on, where we're not allowed to use the shopping bags to take our stuff, but every product that I buy comes in a plastic wrapper or a plastic container. So you scratch your head going, how are we saving the world here by not using the shopping bag, but everything we buy is more expensive and it's coming in a plastic container? It's just, I don't get how, people could just look at it and say, oh yeah, this makes sense. None of it makes any sense.
Use those little plastic bags for diapers. You get the plastic bag from the grocery store, you put your diaper in there, tie it up, and put it in the garbage. And now and again, I love Wisconsin. I'm in New Jersey. This is stupid rules, but you have to buy other bags to then put diapers in I spent more money on the stupid bags at checkout because I forget to bring them in. I got a whole Suburban darn things. It's so frustrating. But let me tell you, so here's our little Duffy philosophy as well. So family debate. My kids are driving, right? And I'm really nervous about them driving and staying safe. And the mileage as well. So I thought, well, why don't we, Rachel and I, look at a Tesla? Not because I want electric. So don't throw stones at me. I don't want it because it's electric, but the technology in the vehicle is unsurpassed by no one. It's amazing. And with the self-driving and I feel like my kids are going to be safe. So Rachel and I are having this debate, and she's like, I'll tell you what, no way in hell are we going to get an electric vehicle. These kids are mining cobalt over in Africa. We're making this transition to electric, and who makes electric batteries? Who owns the cobalt? We're selling our souls to China. We have oil under our own feet. We make our own cars. We're not doing it. So I drive a Suburban. I'm looking for a cheaper vehicle to drive that's still safe for the kids. But it's interesting how they're pushing this electrification on the country, and we're going to lose our freedom and our autonomy over economy. We're again selling more of our soul to China, and you wonder, are people stupid or is this intentional? And I come to the conclusion on all these issues, they're not dumb. They're really smart. What they're doing is intentional, and is purposeful. Even I'm a Bitcoin guy, right? Not because I look at this and go, you can't print money. You can't borrow money the way we're doing it forever. And there's no end in sight. They're not going to stop. This will end one day. And I don't think it's too far away. So how do you protect yourself? So you can buy some gold, you can buy some silver, you can buy some Bitcoin, but the end of this is really bad. And I look at that and go, do they think they can go from 31.5 trillion to 50 trillion to 70 trillion? How many trillion can you borrow before people are like, I'm not buying that debt anymore. It's worthless. That day will come, and they know that. I think it's intentional because the way you rebuild a society is you first destroy it. The best way to destroy it is to ruin its economy and its currency, which is what I think they're intentionally doing to us, because no sane person who loves their country would ever pile this kind of debt on. You're never going to pay it back. You're going to borrow more and make more promises to people that you can never pay back. They know that. So I go, of course, this is purposeful. Just like they're trying to make this transition to electric. They're trying to make me buy a dishwasher that doesn't wash dishes because of all these environmental standards. And I put more dishes in dishwashers and rewash them because they don't get cleaned because these stupid EPA rules. They don't clean your dishes. Sorry.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, Sean. We're going through the same thing over here. And also, I would argue, too, that one of the things that's been done intentionally is destroy our nuclear family units. And I think that is at the core of everything that we are seeing. And I know a lot of people talk about the poverty. I have a couple of guests on. We were talking about this entire thing with what's going on with police and with citizens. And they're saying, oh, if we have to attack the poverty, but they don't want to have the conversation about the family unit, because people that are living in poverty, particularly kids, the overwhelming majority of them that are living under the poverty line are coming from fatherless households. They're being raised in single mother households. So you can't even begin to have this poverty conversation, this economic conversation, unless you have this conversation about strengthening our nuclear family units, which nobody seems to want to have. But unless you have it, you can't solve all these other issues.
And that problem is so big, right? How do you fix it? And I've thought about this a lot, and I've come to the conclusion. I was a U.S. Congressman, right? I'm one of 435. It's pretty powerful, pretty good position, and I can't do anything to change that. The one thing I have power over is my family. And if I want to save America, I couldn't save America as a congressman. I couldn't save it as a senator. I couldn't save it as a mayor. The way we save America is by saving our families. And if everybody, yes, we care about what's happening around us, but if you focus in on your own family and say, this is the most important thing, I'm going to make sure my kids are well educated. They know God, they have faith. If I can, I'm taking them out of a woke school system. I'm going to ask my parents as the father, or my brothers and sisters, to help get my kids out of the public school and into a private school. My kids go to a Catholic classical school in New Jersey, the best darn school I could ever ask for. The stuff they're learning and reading, but I'm going to protect my kids. Have dinner with your kids at night. Talk about these issues. Talk about their lives. Deal with phones. These phones are, and I made mistakes on the phones. I have so many kids, so I can learn from my mistakes. But that sucks them in, and they're depressed, they're distracted, they can't talk to people. And so number 4, I got this. Is number 4? Got it right with 1, 2, 3. So number 4. Yeah. So she's a freshman, no phone. Now, does she still get on social media? Yes. But I have a family computer not far off of my kitchen where we're all at. And she'll sneak in there and get on and talk to whoever. But she's not up all night on her phone. She's not up in the morning on her phone. She's not in school on her phone. If we want to save the country and we all save our families, there's more of us than them, we're going to win. But we got to, they're getting our kids. And we have to recalibrate and go, you're not getting my kids. You're not getting my family. And I'm going to protect it. And as dads, that's our job, right? Protect your family. And I think so often we're so distracted as parents and fathers in all these different directions. One day when we go meet our maker, we had one job to do, which is raise good kids. And I don't want to answer and go, well, I dropped the ball on that one. Sorry. I'm going to go, well, I think I did a pretty darn good job, or at least I tried my heart out to do it.
Yeah, well said. And I know we always hear like, oh, the future is female, or the future is this or that. In my opinion, the future is family. And our country is going to be saved not by politicians, but by parents. And that's where it's got to start, man. And like you said, it's got to start at the kitchen table. And from there, once we get that, it will trickle down into everything in our society: the homelessness, the crime rate, the suicide, the drug use, the teenage pregnancies, the whole bit, the dropouts from high school. They all correlate to this family problem that we're having. And one thing I wanted to get your take on here too, because I have two, my older two are now working, they're in the workforce, and we're seeing things like McDonald's offering $18 an hour for just a starting job with a signing bonus. We're seeing things that are like mind-boggling, like, wow, look at it, but yet they can't keep these jobs filled. Everyone's hiring, and something seems off. I don't know if it's the kids that they don't want to work, they don't want that job, but it seems like there's so much opportunity for employment that people aren't taking advantage of. And I don't know, is it the drive in the kids, the parents not wanting them to work? What do you see as what's going on here with this?
That's a good question, because when we were growing up, it's like I wanted to work because I wanted my own money, whether it was something I wanted to buy or wanted to, take a girl that I liked out to dinner or to the Hardee's back in Hayward, Wisconsin. And I think that a lot of parents coddle and baby their kids and probably give them too much, support them, too much. It's like they give them their own money give them their money as opposed to saying, go earn your own. And that back in the day, my parents didn't give me money. I had to go earn it. So maybe there's a cultural thing that's happened. We want to make it easy on our kids, or I think, listen, sports are great. I've learned a ton from sports, in individual sports and team sports. But right now, the focus of families is so often sports. Your kid's not going to play pro. Like 99.8% of you parents, your kid's not playing pro, but your kid can't work because they're in all these sports programs and leagues and camps. And it's like, listen, there's more to life than sports. Sports are important. You learn a lot from it, but you can focus on other stuff in your family that develop your child in really important ways that I think parents are missing. And I think there's a focus on things other than the basics, and work gets in the way of the camp and the practice and the sports and all that. So that's maybe my the one thing I would go to that is the problem.
Yeah, I like that. And to your point there, it used to be when I was a kid, we played whatever sport was for that season. So we played football, then we would play basketball, then baseball, and then summer, and that would be the end of it. Now it's like you play one sport, you're doing it all year long in travel leagues and this league and that league. So it's kind of like a nonstop thing that's going on. But I also wanted to get your take, because my oldest is 16, and you
played sports all year long. In the summer, you worked.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it was. And one of the other things is, Sean, when I was like 16 years old, you were counting down the days on the calendar till you got your driver's license. It was like the most important thing in the world. And now my 16-year-old, who's going to turn 17, he seems like he could care less when he gets his license. And it seems like a lot of his friends are the same way. Do you see that with your kids? What's going on with that?
Mind-boggling. I'm like, that was the greatest source of freedom as a 16-year-old in Wisconsin when I got my own license. And it's kind of this, this rite of passage into the step towards adulthood. And yet, I don't know what it is. They don't give a darn about getting their license. And maybe it's this. You see that, like, they don't socialize like we used to socialize, because to socialize, we had to go meet up somewhere and actually look at each other and talk and tell jokes and tell stories. They're sitting in their bedrooms on their phone doing that exact same thing. So the need and desire to have the freedom of a car to go to a meeting location with your other friends doesn't exist anymore, because a lot of times they just want to sit at home and talk on these stupid things. I don't know. Kids will come over to my house, and I'll be out of the room, and I'll come in, and there's like 4 kids there, and they're all on their phone. I'm like, put the damn things down, talk to each other. It's again, the phone is such a huge problem, but the problem too with that is it's such a part of their life, right? It's the way they communicate. It's the way they stay in touch with each other. So I think it's hard to take it all the way away. Some might say that's unrealistic, but there has to be some kind of management. And some of the bullying that goes on as well. It's on in the morning, it's on during school, it's on at night, and there's never a respite from it. And that's why we kind of done this thing. There's no phone for my daughter, but if she wants to get on, there's a computer that you can get on. But I know when you're on it, because I know you're in the room on the computer, and I can manage it. But it's rotting the minds of our kids. They can't focus anymore, and they're depressed. But again, it comes back to cars. They're not going places. They just sit and look at this thing all night long on a Friday or Saturday night, and they're happy. I'm like, okay.
And I worry about that too, Sean, because we were obviously driving, and then the phone came into place. We didn't have that when we learned how to drive, when we started driving. That came in along the way. Our kids now, they're on the phone before getting the license. So that's coming with them into the car. And that creates a whole nother set of worries. Like, you're just worried about them because they're so attached to the phone that they're not paying attention to what they're doing. I know now we're having the driverless cars and the whole bit, but until that happens, you got to pilot the vehicle without having to look at the phone every 2 seconds. And you wish there was some kind of magical device that would just kill the cell phone the minute they walk into the car, but that's not available. And it is such a concern, just because, like, the number one, the interest isn't there in driving already, and now you're distracted by the phone. It just seems like we're setting these guys up for just a catastrophe when they do get behind the wheel.
It's so dangerous, and as parents, it freaks me out. And I talk to my kids all the time, but it's one time that you grab your phone, you look down. We see it ourselves. If you grab your phone and you look at it, and all of a sudden you're over a lane, you're like, oh, bring it back. But in an instant, it can change the history and the story of your family, because you lose one of those little precious kids that you gave birth to. And so, but what do? You can't lock them up. You gotta let them go, and instill the fear of God in them if they're using that phone while they're in the car, because they're already bad drivers. They're already horrible drivers at that age. We all were, and that makes them that much worse when they're on the phone. But you said something about some people talk about the future is female, and you said no, the future is family. What really bothers me is what society is trying to do to men and masculinity. To be a strong man, to be a masculine man that leads their family, is a beautiful thing. And that doesn't mean you don't respect women and females, but you start demonizing men. And all of a sudden, what happens is, and we're doing it in school all the time, you start seeing young boys not doing well in school. They start hanging out in their basement. They're playing video games. And eventually, they grow up into young men who no woman wants to marry. No young girl wants to marry the product of what culture is helping raise in these do-nothing boys. Where we used to go, we had drive and initiative and a little bravado. I mean, that's who boys are. And the culture is trying to destroy that. And I think as fathers, we have to push hard back on that to really, set an example of, being a man and masculinity, and that it's okay. It's a good thing, no matter what they tell you. And that being a man also comes with respect, and loyalty, and all those great traits that men have, but it seems like culture wants to focus on men who do bad things and want to say that those bad things, those bad acts are masculine. And we got to fix that.
Yeah, and that's all by design as well, Sean. It's all been done to attack men, masculinity. They're looked down upon. Being a strong head of household now is looked at the patriarch of the family. They want to kill that whole idea. They just want they are really just weakening men, and by effect weakening our society as well. And just I wanted to touch back on when you were mentioning Bitcoin, because this has got a lot of people. A lot of people don't know what to think of the Bitcoin. I know I've had a couple of your colleagues on here. I know I had Stuart Varney on during the pandemic when the Bitcoin was flying through the ceiling, and we had the what were they, the Wall Street Bros or whatever they were that were pumping up the stocks. Bitcoin was at like 68,000 at the time, and then we saw that decline, and a lot of people starting to panic. What do you make of it? You say you're a fan of it. What do you make of the Bitcoin? Where is it going? Is the future of this cryptocurrency? Should we get on board now? What do you make of it?
I think blockchain is going to revolutionize the way we do a lot of things. Number one, Bitcoin is the gold standard of cryptocurrency. I've dabbled in a lot of the different little meme coins, and have done well with them. Got in early, and listen, I'm down on my Bitcoin, but the meme coins have made me pretty close to even. But here's if Bitcoin, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. They're not going to mine anymore. There's a finite number. So unlike the government, who keeps creating more money, when you create more money, you're devaluing the dollar that I have. When you create more dollars, there's only so many Bitcoin, and it's decentralized, meaning the community has control and say over if I'm going to I have one Bitcoin and I'm going to give my Bitcoin to you. The community looks at this transaction. They go, "Yep, Duffy has one. He's going to give one up," and they'll affirm this transaction. And so government's out of the mix. Number one. It's the community that manages Bitcoin. But second, you look at when you're printing money, when you juice the economy, rich people seem to do really well, right? They can play that system really well, and it seems like poorer people, more middle class people, don't do as well when that happens, or don't do as well as the rich. This levels the playing field completely. And so if you don't have faith in currency, where do you go? And so my question to you is, why does the dollar have value? Do you know the answer to that?
No.
The dollar has value because we say it has value. We all agree that a dollar has a certain value, and it's all agreed upon. That's why we can exchange it and use it all over. But we all agree that it has value. There's nothing unique and special about it. I can't send it to the federal government and now get gold or silver. It's got value because we said it has value. Bitcoin also has value because we say it has value. And I'm concerned one day we'll say the dollar doesn't have value. And we've seen that throughout history. And so then you got to ask, where do I go? This is a decentralized platform with only a limited amount of coins. I can put some there. I can put some in some gold. I can put some in some silver. But you might have some trying times, especially if this goes bad. And I maybe I have a tinfoil hat on this. I hope this is not our future, but I'm really concerned about how we're moving forward with the Fed and the currency creation.
Does the government go into cryptocurrency and centralize it and make that the base? Is that where we're headed with this in the future? I know I've heard talks about that. Do you see that happening?
So they're going to try to do it. And so think of nuclear power, the splitting of the atom. Beautiful technology, right? That you get massive amounts of energy, no carbon emission, right? It can be used for really wonderful things, or it can be used to make a bomb, right? Really, really destructive things. Blockchain technology is a wonderful tool for freedom. It's an amazing tool for freedom. And Bitcoin is one of those things. If the dollar is digitized, which is what the federal government wants to do, they all of a sudden they control our money. They control our wallets. And so in essence, I have a claim on the US Treasury with my $50 bill. All of a sudden, they're gonna have a claim to my digital dollar if they make that transition. So I can spend this. I just went to the bank. I have $50. I can spend this on anything, right? You can't stop me from buying drugs with this, or an escort, or eggs. This thing can be used anywhere. If you digitize the dollar, they can all of a sudden tell me how I spend my digital dollar on my phone. They might limit how much I can spend on gas, how much I can spend on electricity. The tool of censorship that will come with the digital dollar is, I think, frightening. And I think we should all be very concerned with the digital dollar. And again, if I can't get this anymore and it's all on here, it's going to be a huge problem for freedom. And I think you're going to have the surveillance state on steroids. China will look like child's play in regard to the surveillance state.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sean, I don't see a scenario where the government wouldn't do that, because it seems like they get their hands in anything that they see. It has taken mass effect on the people. We've seen it with stuff just like the lottery, as far as the gambling goes. Like that started as a penny game in Harlem. Now you have a $600 million jackpot in the Powerball. The government took that, and now you play through them. They're doing the same thing with marijuana. They're doing the same thing with all of this type of stuff. And I could only imagine seeing them do that with something. They're not going to allow you to have free reign without them getting a piece and getting involved in it. And it seems like that's unfortunately where I think it would be headed.
Social credit score system. They can control how I use my money. And that will completely change the relationship we have with money and the government. So I think it's coming. And you might be able to start off with some very strict rules around what the role of the government is with the digital dollar, but you see those erode over time, and bad people see how they can use that to control you. And again, this is the left seems to want to control us on everything. All of their rules, all of their ideas come down to the basic idea of control. And when you look at what these guys go to the World Economic Forum, they go to Davos, and they want, in essence, they see themselves as the elites and in power and control over all of us serfs, and they dethrone us from our own democracies. They take we actually willfully give up our freedom to them. That's what they want. These guys aren't out there promoting more freedom, more democracy, more choice, more autonomy. They're pushing less of all those things, and they want you to give it to them. And you have some dumb people in this country, most of them Democrats, who think that's a beautiful and great idea because the planet's not going to warm. I'm like, okay, but these guys fly around on private jets. Do they really think they buy mansions on the beach? Do they really think that the planet's in danger when they're doing those things, but want you to ride your bike? Come on.
Yeah, that is certainly a hustle for sure. And I think one of the most scariest parts about what we witnessed with the pandemic and COVID and the whole bit was at the onset of it, how easily the government was able to convince people to close their doors and shut their businesses. And I think maybe they were even shocked at how easy people complied with that. And if you're going to be willing to do that so easily and give that up, it's scary to think about where they can actually take you and where they can go with you. And one thing I wanted to hit you with here, just because I know one of the things with the economy the way that it is, the inflation the way it is, one of the first things to go in the family is those luxury things that you do, the vacations that you're going to go on and stuff like that. You with 9 kids, the whole bit. What kind of advice do you have for families that are trying to get a vacation in? Do you got any tips, any kind of what's the best way to plan or do a vacation right now?
I think you got to look at what your family likes to do. So I have my little cabin in Wisconsin. It's a 20 by 20 cabin. I got a lot of kids. It's 2.5 stories high. I love taking them to the lake, right? But if you don't have a cabin or a lake, go camping. Camping is a great way to get out and sit around a fire and do s'mores or hot dogs really inexpensive. Or some, I mean, I think you can be creative and you go, listen, that's even challenging for us. Our money is so tight. I think you have to find special ways to almost do a staycation with your family to go, how are we going to make these 2 or 3 days where I'm taking off work and I'm going to put my phone away, that I'm going to set up, certain things that we're going to do these 3 days only as a family, as if we were on vacation. And I don't think kids care, right? They could be at a lake, they could be camping, on a river, or they could be doing a staycation. They want to be with us. And they want us to put the phone away and think through how we're going to have some creative time together. But time with your family doesn't necessarily mean money. You can spend money on your vacation. But you can also, if you don't have it because you're really tight, you can figure out ways to make special times, really awesome memories for your kids, by staying right in your home and right in your neighborhood, but with some creative juices flowing. Well, can we build a fort together? We're on vacation. We're going to go build a family fort. And you don't want to see me build anything because I'm a horrible builder. I've tried it a couple of times. The most god awful forts I built, and my kids loved them. They thought I was a carpenter. They're ugly as all get out, but that's one of their fond memories of me going out with them building a fort in the backyard. So that's my idea. We just got to be creative as parents. They don't care. They want to be with us.
Yeah, and the scary thought too is that somewhere in the future we'll all be sitting on the couch like this in a virtual thing, taking a vacation. And it seems like that's unfortunately where it's headed, but hopefully not. Yeah, that'll be it. All right, the bottom line, you're a week and a half into this thing, just about. What has been the feedback from the show here that you've gotten so far? How are the views and the ratings doing?
Great ratings thus far. It's been really, really good. And the whole network has been very supportive of this launch, whether it's Fox News and Fox Business. And so it's whenever you do anything new, the first 2 weeks of your podcast, you're like, that was bumpy. The first 2 weeks of my podcast was bumpy. My first 2 weeks on the campaign trail, my first 2 weeks in Congress, all of it. So we're bumping and figuring things out, but we're having a great time doing it, and we're getting a great response from viewers. And again, our ratings have been spectacular thus far. So I'm so grateful to be at a network that actually lets us speak about the things that are nearest to our hearts, which is our families and our faith, and our patriotism. So that's cool. Rachel's here as well. So Rachel does the weekends on Fox and Friends, my wife, Rachel. I'm doing the weekday. So this is a unique schedule for us. We're managing together and figuring out. But it's been a wonderful opportunity. I'm an old dog and trying to do some new tricks.
Awesome, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it. I'm a fan of yours. I love what you and your wife stand for and what you guys do. So props to you. Last thing I want to hit you with here, Sean, I love to ask, I've done this with you before, but let's see what you got this time around. What kind of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
The new dad thing, man, listen, the first one will stress you out beyond belief. You don't want to, they didn't let you take that little baby out of the hospital. They I don't have a license. I'm not trained. I can't take this home. And the thing is, you figure it out. There's no magic book on raising kids and bringing kids home. I think what's important is talking to your parents, talking to your wife's parents, people that you trust on best practices. And in the end, you settle in really well. And the bottom line is, it's natural, right? God made us to be able to have kids and figure it out together. And the one piece of advice is, take care of your wife too. She goes through a pretty remarkable endeavor to give birth to a child, and they're tired, and that's our time to step up and do all we can. As again, whether they're nurse or bottle feeding, but it's hard on them. And again, we alleviate that and make it that much more special of a time when that new little baby comes, when we pick up a lot of slack for our partner.
Very well said. I love the message. Been an honor to have you back, Sean Duffy. You're a first class father all the way. Good luck with the new show. And thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time here at First Class Fatherhood.
Man. Thank you, brother. Have a good one.